Welcome to the XY Advisor Podcast, a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice. To get involved, go to xyadvisor.com or simply download the XY Advisor app.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Integrity, your partner for life. Integrity recently launched an exclusive research paper to help advisors understand how to attract and retain new clients. They believe their role in the industry is bigger than just providing products. They want to help create a sustainable industry, educate clients, and support advisors personally in their business. You can get a copy of the report and learn more about Integrity if you visit integritylife.com.au/XY.
Welcome back to the XY Advisor Podcast. I'm Fraser Jack, and today I'm joined by one half of the Fox and Hare dynamic duo, Glen Hare. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing, Fraser?
Very, very well. Thank you for coming and hanging out again. We've chatted a few times, and obviously you've been on the XY Podcast a couple of times yourself.
Yeah, in its very infancy, I think, probably about 3.5 years ago. So, yeah, it's really, really grateful to be back.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and we've followed along on your journey. I guess over the last sort of four and a bit. Well, no, just under 4 years, hasn't it, since you started?
Just under 4, yes, about 3.5. Sometimes it feels like forever. Sometimes it feels like we just started yesterday. Depends on the day of the week.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess well, you start, and then you're always changing and moving along and making some learnings along the way, and deciding that wasn't such a great thing, and let's double down on that.
Yeah. Totally. Yep.
Fantastic. So let's get into now as we record this. You've just had a couple of weeks off. You are all fresh and ready to hit the ground running and get through winter. Tell us about you just had a holiday and now you're all ready to go.
Mate, very fresh. I literally got back only yesterday from 2.5 weeks cruising around Tassie. First time to Tassie for my partner and I, and it was, like everyone told me it was going to be, absolutely amazing. It was so good. Can't recommend it enough. Hobart, Launceston, Bay of Fires, good food, good wine, amazing wildlife. We saw Tasmanian devils, quokkas. Hey, we went to Maria Island. So this huge island. It was actually a convict settlement, and the really bad convicts would go there because it was an island off the mainland of Tasmania, but there's a wombat colony, and it was just so good, amazing,
fantastic. So that's our tourism guide to everyone should be going to Tasmania, and a big shout out to all the Tasmanian advisors. You guys are obviously living the dream down there.
Living the dream, definitely.
So, mate, let's get into your business, because there's been so many great things that have come out of what you've done over the last few years. No doubt you've learnt some ideas too that you probably wouldn't try again. I think that's the key to a lot of businesses. You try stuff, it works, it doesn't. Let's start with you, Glen. I look at your LinkedIn profile, and there's your description of what you do is you help people make their money work harder, and then there is an emoji of a pumped up gun. After that, does that kind of sum you up? Does that sum you up as a human?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the challenge that we face in our business is our ideal, Fox and Hare member doesn't really know what an advisor does. So if I said, Glen Hare financial advisor, they'd be like, great, that's all well and good.
Yeah, I've heard about you on the Royal Commission. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas if we use this terminology around making your money work harder, that really does resonate, because everyone, and I'm sure there's a lot of advisors listening in that, people come into their office, they're like, oh, I don't really know what I want to do, but I know I should be doing something. So yeah, that's really what sums me up, and probably sums the business up to a certain extent. But making that money work harder towards a specific purpose is also a really powerful conversation. We may touch on that later in the conversation today, Fraser. But not just making your money work harder for the sake of it. What are we actually making it work harder towards?
Yeah, fantastic. And so I guess this probably leads into a conversation that we can sort of have around the marketing that you do and the way that you phrase things in a way that's like member directed rather than the crap terminology that we use all the time.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah. So tell us about your marketing. Let's start with your website. I know that you guys put a lot of work and effort into this as the first port of call.
Yep. Yeah, we did. And it was actually one of our mentors. Originally, we're going to do, not spend a great deal and try and kind of do the website ourselves and use one of those templated versions. We did, because we thought they looked really good for the price that you kind of pay. But we did end up engaging a creative agency to help work on our website. And again, in the interest of transparency, it cost Jess and I, my business partner, about $15,000 to set it up. And it was a huge project, a 6-month, probably 9-month project. And, we did not understand, and having never worked with a creative, like I've got an accounting background, Jess and I were both at Macquarie, like we'd never worked with a creative agency. We really didn't understand how the relationship would work. We expected to just go, okay, we just want a really amazing website and this is what we do. Can you go away and create it? What we didn't understand is how much direction we would have to give that creative agency, because you really need to be incredibly prescriptive around what you do want and what you don't want, because in reality, they don't know really what we do and they can't envisage what's in our head if we don't tell them. So that was a huge learning curve for us and a very, very challenging, very costly exercise. We're really happy with where the website's at now. In saying that, the website was launched about 3 years ago. About 18 months ago, we then started looking at the data. One of my favorite sayings is data knows better than we do. And we're looking at where are people going to our website and where are they actually dropping off. And what we noticed was people were going to the home page, but they weren't going to all the back pages. So they were either moving forward and booking a coffee or something through the home page, or they were dropping off on the home page. They weren't actually seeing all the back pages around kind of what we do and who we work with and all that kind of stuff. So we then went through a process of about 18 months ago to update the home page to try and be more directive to send people to those back pages. Where we're at now, and this is something that we haven't started yet, but the next step will be to go back to the data after 18 months and see how that has worked. Have we actually had an uptick in people going to actually read those back pages? Because it's all well and good to have amazing, good-looking back pages with really great content that you're really proud of, that you've had a copywriter write, and you think, yeah, that really hits the mark. But if no one's seeing it, it's kind of irrelevant. So, it's a bit of a trial and error. And the website's one of those things, like a lot of things in business, it will never be complete. It's one of those things you just constantly have to evolve.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a constant evolution. And I love the fact that you're actually using the data that comes out of it to make some smart decisions. So yeah, congratulations. But you're absolutely right. Like 15 grand's a lot of money for a business that's starting out in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, and we, Jess and I, again, interest transparency, we didn't borrow any money. We saved our asses off for a good 3.5 years before launching the business, because we didn't want to cut corners when we launched. We wanted to make sure that we could do things properly. And sometimes that just costs a little bit of money. Yep,
fair enough. And it's not just the agency you use, but it's also, you looked at some, with regards to the website and a CRM behind it, and all those types of things, rather than just your standard, here is a website that's separate as a standalone thing, and here is a sort of a marketing CRM. You looked at one together?
Yeah, we did. So even when picking the agency, so we picked an agency that had never worked with a financial advice firm before, which comes with its challenges, but also comes with very fresh eyes. In terms of the websites that we were showing the agency that we liked, we showed them, one was a travel blog, the other one was I think it was a women's skincare product. Like they weren't financial advice websites. They were websites that we loved the look and feel and the vibe and the language and the tone, I suppose, that we went through. In terms of the CRM we went with, so our CRM is HubSpot, which many may have heard of. It's the way that I would describe it. So you've kind of got Salesforce, but I would argue probably the bigger enterprise businesses. I know when I was at MacBank, they were moving to Salesforce at the time. HubSpot, they do focus on smaller businesces. So their sweet spot is probably for, startups anywhere to probably 50 to 100 employees. And again, they're not a financial services CRM, but they're a client member engagement software tool. So whenever we're looking at any, and again, this is something we may touch on, but whenever we're looking at any software, we're not just looking at fintech. Obviously, we look at fintech, but we also look at best of breed, industry agnostic.
Yeah. Now, okay. So let's just get into this HubSpot conversation, because CRMs, like we as advisors, you go, CRM, that's one of the the financial services CRMs that everyone talk about and complains about, or likes or dislikes, whatever they want, whatever the time of the day. But this is forgetting about the concept of what you know as a CRM or what you think you know as a CRM. There are marketing CRMs, and then there are financial services CRMs, right? So they are very sort of different things.
Chalk and cheese.
And you use this marketing CRM for your pre and the data that comes out of the pre stuff and the clicks on the website because it's linked together.
Yep.
And when people put an inquiry in, it forms into this marketing CRM before they become a client. So it's a separate client. Like once they become a client, they're in a different CRM, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. So and the other, the member CRM that we use is Advisor Logic. And then the prospecting CRM we use is HubSpot. And the way that we think about the two, so you're right, Fraser, like HubSpot does integrate with our website, so we can see who comes to our website. We can see if they come back multiple times to our website. If they book in a coffee, it's done through HubSpot, which is directly linked into our diary. If they book in a phone call, again, directly linked through to our diary through HubSpot. In terms of, there's a chat functionality again through HubSpot. So if they do reach out to us through our chat function on our website, again, that's linked through HubSpot. It's got a sales dashboard. So with each of the advisors, we've got kind of clear KPIs in terms of how many new members we'll be bringing on each month. There's a dashboard functionality at where people are at in kind of that sales pipeline, and also that onboarding process. But once they go, yep, cool, clean, Glenn, keen to become a member and sign our membership forms, they then go into our Advisor Logic system. And I've never had any dealings with or used Xplan, or I've never used any kind of advice software apart from Advisor Logic. But in terms of the CRM functionality, it's here's a name, here's a number, here's an email. That's kind of it. And one really good thing about kind of breaking out the two is our Advisor Logic data is really clean for that reason. We've got no prospects in there. We've just got our member base in there. So we don't have this challenge of 2, 3, 4, 5,000 contacts in our Advisor Logic software. We've just got our members in there. So it's really clean when we're running reports and things like that. HubSpot, that's also where it links with MailChimp, which is where we do our EDMs and things like that. So again, that's where our database of prospects is being built out. So HubSpot is by far one of our favorite pieces of software.
Yeah, incredible. Thank you for sharing that. That's quite a good conversation to be having that a lot of people aren't having around, keeping their prospects separate. When they do become a member, and we'll get into the difference between member and client in a second, but when they do become a member, do they come out of HubSpot or do they stay in there for a nurture?
they do stay in HubSpot as well. So we would tick them from prospect to member in HubSpot. And the reason for that is we still send all our EDMs through HubSpot. And our marketing. So even to our existing members, if we have a series called Ask the Experts, which is an event where members can come along for free. So we just hosted one with Nicola Powell, who's one of the property experts at Domain. And for our members, it's free. For prospects, they do have to pay a small fee, or proceeds go to a charity. But the EDM is still run out of HubSpot. It's just the wording is slightly different. So we just categorize the contacts in HubSpot different, and then it's really easy for Charlotte on our team, who manages all of that, to send one email to the one group of people, one email to the other.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's actually a very structured setting up of your marketing activity from starts with a different CRM all the way through to, how are you communicating well with your clients using a system that is just designed to communicate well with people.
Totally. If one thing we did do well was this. Yeah. We're really, and actually just having this conversation now, you often don't reflect on the things you do well. You just, well, maybe this is a problem I have.
You beat yourself up about the rest. Yeah.
I just beat myself up about the mistakes that we're making and the things that we're working through. But this is one thing that has worked really, really well.
Yep, fantastic. So, just on that marketing front, you do spend a lot of time on marketing. You do great blogs; they come out. You have been, you're in a lot of award processes that would take a lot of time, because obviously, you're putting, after you'll get nominated, but you'll put yourself. It takes an application process that all takes time, as you mentioned just before. You run events. This is a lot of time out of the business. And so, do you have a set structure around how much time you spend on marketing, or is this just
Yeah, so there is. So one of our team members who originally came on as, I guess, an administrative support in a part-time capacity, she, so this is Charlotte, so about 2 years ago, she then moved to full-time. Originally, it was then 3 days admin and then 2 days marketing. It moved to three marketing, 2 admin, and it's now 4 marketing, 2 admin, 1 admin rather. And then in time, it'll be the full week, her full FTE on that marketing function. One, because there's been an increased need for it. And 2, she's really, really good at it and enjoys it, and it's her strong suit. So when thinking about our entire team, we're always trying to create roles and move people into roles that they really enjoy. And that's challenging at sometimes. And, there does need to be a conversation around, we need to work towards that over a 6-month period or over a 3-month period. But that's something that we worked on with Charlotte, and we're able to deliver on. So there is a structured approach to our marketing. So, Jess and I spend, quite a bit of time, building our personal brands. We also spend a lot of time building the Fox and Hare brand. And that's through different mediums. So obviously through your socials, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, which is probably where about a third of our prospects come through, that digital platform. And that would include the website as well. So people just simply Googling us. So that would be about a third of the opportunities. And then a third would come through from our existing members, referring their friends and family. And then, so probably a third digital, a third coming through from existing members. And then the other third would still come from your traditional referral partners. So we've got a narrow and deep relationship with a number of professional partners. So your buyer's agent, your mortgage broker, your lawyer, etc., accountant that we trust, and then they obviously trust us as well. So digital probably makes up a third of those opportunities.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And obviously it's, classic diversification, right? From a business point of view.
Yeah, 100%. And some months it'll be more digital, depending on, if we've got an award that month, or we've been in quite a number of publications, we get quite a bit of spike. Looking at our data again, we interestingly so we don't have a podcast ourselves, but when appearing on podcasts, that's actually where we get a lot of people reach out off the back of those. And we've been on quite a number of those financial podcasts and others. We do a lot of work in the D&I, diversity and inclusion space, just does a lot of work in kind of female empowerment space. So they may not necessarily be financial advice or, finance podcasts, but people just reach out and go, oh, actually, that person sounds legit, or that person sounds like someone I can have a really personal conversation with, and reach out off the back of that. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. I love the fact that it's structured. I love the fact that then, you talk about that's nearly a full-time role. How many people in the business?
10. So 10 full-time employees. It's been staffing, as probably most people listening in can attest to, is challenging. We've had a couple of people who have joined and then have moved on and, felt that, maybe it's not the right place for them. And one thing that Jess and I are now have very front of mind when going through and we are looking to hire another financial advisor and an associate for that matter. Whenever we're looking for the appropriate fit, it's really one of the things that we're really focused on now is this term around flexibility. And the reason why I just wanted to call that out is our industry, for better or worse, is still very much focused on I guess the older demographic, and that's great. There's certainly a huge need for that. Whereas what we do and the members that we work with are very different. And in terms of articulating our value proposition, we have found that it takes time to learn. And and I might be going a little bit of a tangent, Fraser, but the reason why it's a little bit challenging is our prospects don't really know how we can add value. And they don't know how we can add value because they don't really know what a financial advisor does. So for them to actually reach out, they're like, I don't really know most people reach out with this thought in the back of their mind. I'm really not sure if this is right for me. I have no idea where this conversation is going to go. So the first, even through our digital means and even that first kind of coffee fireside chat, it's just about making that prospect feel comfortable, making them feel like they're not alone and making them feel like they're speaking to someone or speaking to a business that actually understands their situation. In terms of the people that are coming to us, the vast majority, so about 80% of our members are probably in their early 30s. Okay. So they've got to a point where they're earning good money. And when I say good money, they're on six figures. But they probably don't have a lot of assets behind them. They may have purchased their first property. They may have purchased, their first home, or they may have started investing in shares, but, they're still fairly early on that journey, which is why I use this concept of making their money work harder, because they know they need to do more, but they're just not sure what that step is. And we also have quite a few people that reach out to us with, considerable amounts of debt. That ranges anywhere from 10, 20. We had, one of our members reached out to us originally with, over $100,000 worth of credit. And I'm referring to kind of, bad debt, over $100,000 worth of debt. And sometimes it can be challenging to, in our experience, to articulate, well, how can you help with that? Because in reality, it's just a budget that's going to help with that. But the way that we help is through our programs and through that coaching and through letting them know that, hey, if you stick to this, this is where you'll be in 12 months' time. And if you keep going, not only will you be debt free, then in 2 years' time, further 2 years' time, you'll have that deposit for that home. So then you've got that prospect sitting there in front of you. They've gone, okay, I'm in debt now. I don't see how I can buy that property or that investment property that I want to. But you're telling me that in 3 years' time, if you stick to this, that I'll be there. And the beauty of cash flow is you stick to it, you get there. It's not like, some of the other stuff like insurance you may or may not be able to claim, or, super, yeah, it's important, but it's a 40-year investment, or, you invest in the stock market. Yeah, you're going to have your good years, you're going to have your more challenging years. The budget is you stick to it. This is where you'll be. And for me, again, with an accounting background, I love numbers because I love the certainty around that. But that is potentially a different conversation to what a lot of advisors are very familiar with, which is, I'm retiring in 10 years. I've got $1 million in super. How do I make sure that it lasts for the next 30 years?
Yeah.
That's probably a fairly common conversation. The 30-year-old with 17 grand, credit card debt, and then say, on 100 grand, how to go, okay, I'm going to charge you a couple of $1,000s up front and then a monthly subscription fee to kind of get you through that. That's something that is a different conversation.
Yep. Now I'm going to ask you about your programs in a second. But let's get the member versus client question in there at this time. You call them members. A lot of people call their clients clients. A lot of people, you're not the first one I've heard calling them members. But tell me about that. How did your clients become members, and how do you now? What drove that?
Yeah, so there are probably two things. Firstly, membership creates a sense of community. So one thing that we noted fairly early on is our members like to hear what our other members are doing. They like to hear the challenges that our other members are having. They like to hear the windfalls that our other members are having. So we wanted to create this space where people felt like a part of a community. Now, we've got a lot of work in order to increase that sense of community. Last year was challenging because, we went from doing quite a few physical events where we'd have people in the room kind of meeting and greeting. And one of our events, we had, 3 of our members talk about their challenges and why they reached out to Fox and Hare in the first place. And it was a room full of other members. And it was really great to see as those 3 members were talking about their experiences, and, hats off to them for being really, really transparent. You could see the other members in the room kind of nodding along, going, yeah, that's me. And for those that, I'll use this example of kind of that debt kind of scenario for one of the members that was talking. They were like, yeah, I came, I was really terrible with money and I had debt, and then I just bought my first home. For the members that were sitting in the audience that potentially could resonate with that story and weren't sticking to their cash flow structure, we're going, oh, yeah, actually, you know what? That could be me sitting up there. That sense of community is something that we want to we embrace, but we want to probably increase more. And again, last year 2020 was challenging, but we've got a few things that hopefully we'll be able to ramp that up towards the back end of this year. The other reason why we refer to, I guess, our members as members is our pricing model. So we have 3 programs where we charge an upfront fee and then a monthly subscription. Okay, and in terms of that terminology around subscription, again, we use that language because it's language that our members are very comfortable with. It's you pay a membership fee for your gym, you pay a membership fee for your health, through your health fund. You pay a membership fee for your Stan, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Binge, and all the other streaming services. People, they're like, yeah, I pay a membership fee or a subscription fee for my advice. It's language that people are comfortable with. It's not foreign.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Rather than ongoing fees, it's a subscription. It's great terminology. Love it. And just that the idea of keeping your clients siloed versus members coming together and coming to events and joining in and becoming having that sense of community. I think that traditional model of having clients and siloing them and saying, oh no, one client can't talk to another, it's very much the old school way, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure why you would do that. Again, I'm sure there might be a reason. I'm not sure why, but we want our members to talk to each other. And, and we hope that all our members have a really great experience. And, again, the other thing that we, the way that our membership model is structured is right from the outset where, we're very transparent. When we're having the conversation, you pay that membership fee for as long as you're seeing value in the engagement. That puts the onus back on Fox and Hare to continually show that value, to justify that fee. And you can see when sitting with the prospect, they're like, oh yeah, that does make sense. That does resonate. And the other language we use, is every single Fox and Hare member pays that membership fee because they see value in the engagement. And again, this is giving the prospect comfort that, yeah, okay, well, you've got all these members that are paying that fee, that they must be seeing value. Because I would still argue a lot of our members probably did, not probably, they did sign up originally. They're like, I still, we've had a coffee, we've had a 2-hour goals and values session, I get it, but I'm not 100% sure how you're going to be able to help. But then once we go through the initial experience and they see the conversations that we're having and they see the changes that we make, that's when they see the value. So they probably go in and they probably see enough value up front to obviously sign the membership forms, but they probably don't truly see the value until 3 or 6 months in. They're like, oh, okay, now I get it.
100%. The value is definitely in the implementation and seeing things working, isn't it?
Totally,
obviously.
yeah.
Now you mentioned your process. Obviously, your first step of your process is a coffee catch up, or that sort of terminology. Grabbing a coffee with somebody and finding out what their situation is, then finding out about you. You then dive deep into a 2-hour goals and values session. Yep. That's sort of a fairly heavy session for a lot of people, but I guess you set that up in the coffee meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. And the coffee is super cash. I mean, I'm sure, I think this is pretty industry standard, 30-minute, 45-minute chat, who you are, what are you looking for, and a little bit about us. The goals and values session is a pretty heavy session. It's about an hour and a half to 2-hour session. It's only at the end of that session when the prospect decides whether they would like to be a member or not. In the coffee session, we're very transparent around our fees. So we have set fixed fees for the three programs. So when they say, yep, cool, I'm happy to have that goals and values session, they already know what the fee is. So the fee is never the barrier. The goals and values conversation is around and it's not numbers heavy. There's not a great deal of prep work for us because it's all about them. It's all about, okay, if we are going to work together, what are we actually going to work together towards? And our conversion rate after that goals and values session is about 90%, because in the coffee that we've spoken about the fees, and we've just spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours with the prospect. And by the end of it, it's either a digital, last year was obviously all digital screen outlining all of their short, medium, and long-term goals, or if it's in the office, it's a whiteboard with a timeline outlining all their short, medium, and longer term goals. And then the question at the end of that session is, would you like us to help you achieve everything that we've just spoken about for the last 2 hours? Very rarely will you have someone go, nah, I don't want any of that anymore. I don't actually need help.
Sorry, I was just kicking tires. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I love the goals and values session because it's, just some of the techniques that we use. So obviously very open questions. One mistake I have seen people make in these sessions is assume people's goals. And it's very clear that, working with our members, there's no linear path. Like, our members aren't, going to school, finding their high school sweetheart, getting married, having kids, buying a house, staying at the same job for 30, 40 years, retiring and moving to a nursing home. Like, it is just not some of our members never want to have kids. Some of our members never want to get married. Some of our members never want to buy their own property. They purely just want to make their money work harder to build a passive income so that they can then travel the world. Some of them just want to start their own business. very rarely will a member stay in a business or a company for more than 5 years. They're moving all over the place. So we should never be assuming what it is that we think that they want to achieve. The other thing is, if I'm in the room, and I love doing these probably face to face. They work fine. They work fine digitally, but I love to run these a bit more of a workshop. I will ask the member or the prospect rather to write the goals on the whiteboard rather than me up at the whiteboard writing them down. I sit down and I ask them to write their goals on the whiteboard. And if it's a couple, this is where it's the best. I'll ask one of the individuals to who wants to be the scribe, and then they have to get up on the whiteboard, and then I'm an observer. I'm an observer there, Fraser. Like, I'm sitting there and the couple are having a conversation. Okay, what do we want to achieve over the short term? What do we want to achieve in the medium term? What do we want to achieve over the long term? And they're having that conversation. It's a really easy session for me because I can just sit there and observe. Okay, cool. Yep, that makes sense. And while they're doing that, I'm just jotting down notes, right? Yeah, okay, well, this is what we could do here. This is what we could do there. And it ensures that they're more engaged as well. Because it's very easy if someone else is scribing, like, oh yeah, that'll do. Oh yeah, that's fine. What they wrote is clear. Whereas if they're up at the whiteboard doing it, there's a much higher level of engagement.
Oh, absolutely, and they take greater ownership of that the results, I think, too, in that scenario.
Yeah.
Now you got your programs. You get sorted. You like a boss, and then of course the world domination, which I love. Now and you mentioned that there's set pricing. Like you at the very beginning when you're doing your coffee catch up, you say these are our 3 programs, these are our 3 memberships, these are our subscriptions, et cetera, et cetera. Is there additional fees for additional complexity if they choose one and then want additional stuff?
So, good question. So the Get Sorted, the way I'll answer that is just kind of differentiating the three programs. Get Sorted is someone that really has no assets, no liabilities. They're probably in there, they've just started earning close to 6 figures, or they're at home and they're earning 80 grand. So their disposable income's huge. They're still no rent, not paying for anything. So they've got, $5,000 every month that they could be doing something with. So that will probably be the Get Sorted program. The Like a Boss program is probably our flagship program where the majority of our members sit. And that's the program where they've bought their first investment property, their income is starting to tick up, closer to probably 120, 150. So it's, starting to increase, and their propensity to earn is also increasing. They've got a share portfolio. So there's added complexities there around, tax strategies and things like that. World domination is for those who have quite complex financial structures. So we have very few members in this program, but we also have a lot of members that aspirationally want to be in that program. So that's for those that are typically running their own business, have family trust, potentially a self-managed super fund. So they've got quite, a number of things going on. So in terms of the programs, the way that we position it is, for our members or the prospect has the ability to pick the program that feels right for them. However, we will guide them on what we feel is the most appropriate. So if we have someone that is, has quite complex, not complex, but they've got a few things that we will need to work through with them, but they're like, oh, I think I'm Get Sorted. We will have a conversation around why we don't believe that is the case, to ensure that, again, we're being remunerated for the work that we do, and also that they see value in the program. And, again, the engagement is quite different between the Get Sorted and the Like a Boss program. The Get Sorted program there's the annual progress meeting. We do check in with them, throughout the year, and we have technology that also helps with that. But the Like a Boss program, we're catching up with those members every 12 to 16 weeks. So again, quite a much higher level of engagement because of the complexities. And so also the fact that one thing, again, coming back to our conversation around the conversations we're having with members and finding the right advisors for Fox and Hare, our members' worlds are changing all the time. And they don't even realize how much their worlds are changing until they probably start working with us, because We've had people that have joined the Like a Boss program and they're like, oh, yeah, Glenn, okay, cool. I'll go with that program, but I may want to move down to the Get Sorted if, we don't need that high level of engagement. And the conversation from our perspective is always absolutely no problem. If you don't feel that you need that high level of engagement, that's cool. We can go down to the Get Sorted program, knowing in the back of my mind that things change. The amount of times that people change jobs, people get a pay rise, people get paid a bonus. Everyone's having babies. Our members are having kids, or their relationship. We've had quite a number of members this year where we've had the individual join. And they've been in a relationship, but it's still been pre-money conversations. And then as they've been with a member for us with that kind of 18 months, 2 years, then they're like, oh, I'd love to get my partner involved. So it's the conversations are all like, there's always something happening. It's not, again, the traditional, hey, I've got this sum of money, make it last for the rest of my life. It's like, I'm getting married, I'm getting divorced, like all of this stuff. So, it's always a conversation to be had.
I love the fact that you do catch up more regularly. Not just your annual meeting. And I think, look, from what I'm gathering from this conversation, there's a lot of your clients aren't the structured. I just want security and certainty and all these sort of things. And from what I was talking to you before about was the staff. They're probably the same. You're more looking for that mental flexibility. And as you said, clients' situations are changing. The business is constantly evolving. You're looking for staff and clients that are aligned in that ability to be nimble and change and get through and cope with change.
Yeah. I mean, the underlying values that probably sit or resonate with the vast majority of our members would be freedom, flexibility, and choice. The three things that come up all the time. What does that mean for them specifically? A lot of them are still working that out.
Yeah.
And if they go, I just want financial security. The next question I'm going to ask is always going to be, well, what does that mean? And very rarely can they answer that through that initial goals and values session. And a lot of that is then us saying, that's okay that you don't know, but that is something that we need to work on. Because again, a lot of people are afraid about reaching out to us because they're like, I don't really know what I want. I don't really know where I want to be. I don't really know where I'll be in 3 years' time, let alone 5 years' time. So then they're like, oh, I don't think now's the right time to have a chat. So again, in that goals and values session, it's all about, that's okay that you don't know 100% where you want to be, but what we need to do is work out what you think you want, and let's work together to work towards that. When those goals, or if those goals inevitably change, that is okay. Through our program, we will pivot the strategy to realign to those new goals.
Yep. And one of the things I've heard you speak about before, and I think it's probably something that a lot of advisors aren't talking about, and it certainly comes with your target market, the clients that you help the most, and you touched on it before, was the conversation around joining money. Like in a relationship, long-term relationships, the money's joined, etc. But often that's a piece of work that there is lots of different ideas around, and you obviously talk to a lot of your members about joining money.
Yeah, so interesting. There's a podcast, you've probably heard of Equity Mates. They've just started another podcast by two young girls, Meet, Pay, Love, and it's all about relationships and money. And as everyone that's listening in can probably attest to, everyone has very different relationships with money. And if you're in a relationship and the two individuals have different relationships with money, that again adds another level of complexity. And these conversations, this is a coaching conversation. This is about, what works and what won't work for that particular couple. Some of our members want to keep things completely separate. Some of our members, want to put some things together. Some of our members are just like, yep, cool. It's households. We're all in it together. There's no right or wrong, but it's about working out what feels right for them, but is also going to achieve, the best financial objectives, and being really transparent. Hey, if we put our investments in their name, then there may be some, tax considerations. Are you comfortable with all the investments being in their name? And it's again a journey for a lot of our members as well, because again they're in a position where. So I just think about the couple that I was working with a couple of weeks ago. They just bought a house together, and it was only the gentleman that was a member that I was looking after. And I was like, look, you guys have just bought a house together. You're pretty financially linked. I think it's really time we have a conversation with your partner as well, because we need to start thinking about your finances at a household level. But you can't push that topic. It needs to come naturally. It needs to come at a time that feels right from them. But we also need to be really transparent that, hey, if we're not having conversations at a household level, there may be some financial considerations or some financial opportunity that we may not be leveraging.
Yep, exactly. And I do think it's a conversation that, like you said, it's a very important coaching conversation, and probably something we could throw out there a bit more.
Yeah, and Fraser, just picking up on your point around, finding the right Fox and Hare advisors, we need advisors that can have that conversation. And that's not something you learn when you're doing your, I did commerce accounting at uni. Like, I didn't learn about that. The advisors that will be successful at Fox and Hare are the ones that can coach people around how to manage relationships with money, not just, this is how you reduce your tax. This is why rolling to this super fund is good, or this is why you need this insurance. But it's about linking the financial stuff to the world, to the real world, because the real world is what our members are interested in. They just want to make sure that the financial stuff is designed and enables us to get there. You've got to be able to link the two. Otherwise, what we do will not resonate with our members.
Yeah, it's 100%. A lot of clients go through this emotional decision making process when it comes to their money, right? Every decision they make is emotional, and somewhere along the line, you need to back that up to, that, like you said before, their purpose in life, their hopes, dreams, goals, aspirations. Talk to me about the word purpose. What does that mean to you, and how do you talk to your clients about it?
So purpose is what are your core values? So so you will know that that goals and values session, it's not just the goals, it's also about understanding the members' core values. So I rattled off a few, being freedom, flexibility, and choice. And there's a whole array. So, from adventure to purpose to drive to efficiency, and
relationships and fun and all sorts of things. Yeah,
totally. And when we're having that conversation around, do you want us to work towards? Do you want us to help work towards those goals that you've just outlined? We use this similar conversation when talking to the values. So we'll have a whiteboard full of all their values. So they might have 10, 15 values. They're like, yeah, Glenn, these are all really important to me. So I'll then say, okay, cool, awesome. What are your top 5 values? And then they'll say this X, Y, Z. And then the next question is around, okay, if these are your top 5 values, what do you need to be doing differently in order to live by these values? And that's when they start thinking about, okay, well, I probably need to do this a little bit more. I need to do that a little bit more. And, one that often comes up for a lot of our members is they're driven and they're also goals orientated. And they're often very driven and goals orientated in their business, in their work, in their careers. But a really easy conversation is to then have, okay, what about how do you feel you're living by those particular values in line with your financial world? And that's definitely, and I know what the response is going to be. It's going to be that aha moment. They're like, oh, I'm actually probably not as structured, driven, or kind of goals orientated in that financial place. Yeah. And I said, and that's where I go, that's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
That lens that you have over your career, that lens that you have over your business is exactly the same lens that we try and put over your personal financial world.
Yeah.
And that's
amazing.
where they're like, and that's where that, okay, now, and that's how we also build the values conversation and that purpose conversation. So, we're going to work, but what's the purpose?
Yeah.
Well, the purpose is to fuel our life, which is great. But if you don't have any focus and structure on that, what's the chance of you being able to achieve those goals?
It's fantastic questioning, and that's the intangible thing that you do as a planner, as a business. I love that question around what is it that you have to do for that to happen. I also love throwing that in there that says, if I look at your diary, could I tell that?
Totally.
You said you've got these values and purpose in life, and this is what you want to do. So if I look at your diary, is that what it looks like? And the people think, oh crap,
yeah,
I'm doing a whole lot of stuff that doesn't make me happy. No, very good, fantastic. So there's a lot going on. There's been a lot going on, and as I mentioned before, it's you're looking from the outside in, and you're doing some great work, and congratulations. If I quickly go back, just from that marketing point of view, one of the things I wrote down the concept around 10% of your time is going towards marketing, from what I can sort of gather.
Yeah.
The conversation around staff and flexibility, I think, is an interesting one too. I think, is there any sort of tips that you would give to sort of with staff, hiring, employing?
I think it's different for everybody. Like we're in a business that is growing rapidly, and it's 3.5 years old, so it's still a startup. And our changing our programs, changing the way that we do things, it's happening all the time. Like we're not in a business that's 15 years old, and we've got that really strong foundation, and we're just kind of making tweaks and little things here, little things there. Where we've certainly got a strong foundation, but we've probably got a foundation that's it's probably like what can I use? It's kind of like more in Japan, like how they've got all like the tectonic plates and things like that, and earthquakes. That you've got to be able to you've got to be able to move. It's not that strong thing that's going to crack. You need flexibility. And the other thing is from a hiring perspective, again, this is just for us. We need those that can really have those high EQ, really high EQ, and can have those coaching conversations, because a lot of our members are earning good money, but they're not motivated by money. Right. So if we're just talking about, you can save an extra, you're going to be able to save tax here, or your investments are going to go up, this much, or super is really important because of this, this, and this. That's great. That's obviously what we do, but you need to be able to relay it to the real world. Like, what does that mean for their life and their life goals?
Yeah, that is such an important piece. Now, I just want to quickly talk about some of the technology you're using. We mentioned HubSpot, obviously, earlier as a CRM. Talk us through the rest of your, I hate to use the word stack, but the rest of your, the things that you use. You mentioned that you do a lot of comms to clients, obviously, things like SMS, messaging going out, those sorts of things. Talk to us about the technology you're using.
So technology that we're using, probably, so some of the key players, so HubSpot, definitely. Our advice backend kind of modeling tool is Advisor Logic. We're on Microsoft 365. In terms of our socials, so we use a platform called Hootsuite, which many may be familiar with, that helps with kind of the scheduling of different posts and things like that. What else do we use? My Prosperity. So we do use My Prosperity, and that's where we're able to track a lot of our. So we've got a white labeled app that sits on our members' phones, and that's where we're able to track whether they're actually hitting the goals that we agree to. Because if we think about those Get Sorted members, we're only having those annual progress meetings, but I don't want to have an annual progress meeting with a member and set all these goals and then realize 12 months later they've done absolutely nothing. So we track in the background using My Prosperity to see whether they are actually hitting that or not. And if we see that they're not saving, the $3,000 a month that we agreed to, hypothetically, then we'll reach out to them off the back of that. So we won't just wait 12 months and go, oh, hey, we noticed 10 months ago that you weren't saving what we agree, we will reach out and say, hey, we need to have a conversation. And the conversation again is, it's not, hey, you should be saving $3,000 a month because that's what we agreed to. It's, hey, you know how we're going to buy that investment property in 18 months' time? Because you've only saved 2,000 instead of 3,000, we've just pushed that back a month, as long as you're okay with that. And, and then the conversation may lead, if that goal's no longer important to you, that's okay, but I just wanted to make sure. And that's when they go, oh, no, it is important to me. I need to get back on track.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this, what's the saying, leading with a carrot.
Yeah, it's the accountability conversation too that you can easily bring in there and just, obviously go in there and say, great, tell me how you want me to, I love the coaching question around, tell me how you want me to best motivate you. Do you need to kick up the bum, or do you need a gentle encouragement, or where are we on the spectrum? Like, what do you need from me? And then you got permission to lead with a either lead gently or lead with a no, you're off track.
Totally, and I'm gonna have to have one of those conversations today. As you know, so I just got back from leave yesterday, and last night I was kind of just trawling through my initial trawl through the emails just to pick out the priorities, and seemed to be amazing while I was away. No issues or anything like that. But one of our members that has been with us for about 18 months, two members, they both work in tech. And super lovely couple. They're just terrible with life admin. And between the two of them, they're on probably about $400,000 a year. So big money. And they're in their early 30s. So much opportunity. And they're on the middle program, so like a boss program. And Kat from our team would be able to attest, they're really terrible. Like with getting back to us and with implementing the strategy and signing the documents, and they're just like, I just never do it. And I've got an email sitting in my inbox now, and they're like, oh, we think we need to move down to the Get Sorted program. Nothing to do with our team. Like, your team have been great, but we're just not doing what we need to be doing. So we're just not seeing the value. Like, we want to reduce our subscription because we're just not doing it. My conversation with them is going to be, why did you reach out to us in the first place? And why? And then obviously they'll kind of give their response. And the terminology and the language is going to be, there's so much opportunity. What needs to change in order for you to embrace this? And then kind of just sit back and hear what they have to say, because this is the biggest. The resounding theme with all of our conversations, with all of our prospects, with all of our members, is opportunity. Because our members are in their 30s, this couple that have over $20,000 of after-tax income dropping into their bank account, they haven't even bought their first investment property yet. When they first reached out to me, they had, a couple of $100,000 sitting in a bank account, and we've started a regular investment strategy, and, they've got about, $100,000 invested now, but they've still got a couple of $100,000 sitting in a bank account. And we've been talking about, buying an investment property, or is it going to be the home? Is it going to be investment property, or should we be putting in the stock market? And this conversation has been happening for about 12 months now. And it's the disappointing thing for me is I need to work out, how do I ensure that I'm using language that gets them to do something? It needs to be something they're really comfortable with, but I'm also conscious that this opportunity cost. Them doing nothing is a decision. Just for them, I don't think it's the right decision. So I need to think about it. Then this isn't a tax conversation or investing conversation or a budgeting conversation. This is a coaching conversation. Is like, how do I help my members achieve their really ambitious goals, given that they've got this mindset that they're now going to do even less than what they're already doing? So I need to think about how to frame that conversation before picking up the phone. But yeah, sorry, mate. Just there's tangent now.
There's definitely a lot of that motivational conversations where we need to think about how do we best motivate somebody to do the right thing for themselves.
Totally. Or do something.
Fantastic. So look, a lot of exciting stuff going on. Tell us what the future holds for you. Where are you off to from here? What's changing?
where are we off to from here? So definitely looking to hire. We're looking for a really great advisor. We've got a lot of people reaching out to us, and we want to make sure that we continue to deliver that high level of service. And in order to do that, we need the right people in the right seat. So looking at that experienced advisor role that has that coaching capability. In terms of probably next steps for us, I think it's Jess and I often, it's a really good problem to have, but our growth has just been pushed upon us in that we're just trying to keep up with demand. So, which is hence the reason for hiring. But in terms of next steps, look, probably going to get back out there and starting doing more physical events. So we just brought back our Wine and Wisdom series, which is where we go to a little wine bar. We're based in Sydney, so down in Darlinghurst, and we have about 20-25 prospects where we drink wine and talk about finance. We have a sommelier that they talk about the wine. I wouldn't have a clue. I just drink it, and then we do little finance topics, and that works really well. I'm doing a lot more work with our charity partners. So School for Life, which is a organisation that builds schools in Uganda. I do a lot of work. I've just been appointed to the board of Wear It Purple, which is a charity that supports LGBTI youth. Jess is doing a lot of work with the YWCA around female empowerment. Fraser, mate, in terms of where we're heading, I think it's just constantly getting bigger and probably just continuing to tweak how we're working with our existing members. Nothing. Jess and I have a full strategy session in a couple of weeks' time, so maybe I'll have a bit more an idea after that. But just continually pushing the boundaries and making sure that we're not doing things just because that's the way that we've done them.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Glenn. I really appreciate you coming and giving us a great update on where the business is at now, like 3.5 years in. Like you said, it's still a startup, but it also feels like it's got some maturity around it as well, and that stable base for you guys to really launch off. So, congratulations.
Totally. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Well, there you have it, another episode of the XY Advisor podcast. I'm Fraser Jack, and I'm here with Em. G'day, Em.
Hey, Fraser. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Wonderful, and good to be chatting to you, that's for sure. And we're doing some shout-outs.
All right, my favourite part of the week. So today I want to give a shout-out to Borjan Rasaya, XY advisor and legend in Melbourne, who jumped on an XY Plus web event recently to share and go a little deeper into his purpose-based advice process. So I know he's been on the podcast once or twice before. I really wanted to go deeper and really find out what does that journey look like. What is that process he's taking his clients through to unpack their values and their purpose? And how is he delivering that and also charging for it? Because it could be upwards of 12 months before Borjan actually delivers any formal statement of advice. So I was really keen to dive into that. He was an open book, really open and transparent with what he does, and was more than happy to share. So it was very well received by everyone who jumped on. And anyone who hasn't seen it yet, if you're in XY Plus, you can jump into the portal and catch up on that replay. And if you are not in the inner circle, you are more than welcome to join. You can head to xyadvisor.com/plus to watch Borjan's web event and access the entire back catalogue. There's about 50 plus different web events with nuggets of advice gold.